Welcome back. It's another Creaky Bloody Gamers battle report. Let's get on with it.
Okay guys, welcome to Warhammer Old World version 1.5 or 1.51, whatever it is. So, went to a local friendly game day at the Combat Company and decided to take like my original army. At the start of Old World, I was playing mainly an infantry orc and goblin army. So I got the Black Orcs are back and a couple of units of Night Goblins, the Great Keef on his Wyvern, another War Boss on a Wyvern, and a couple of a level 3 and a level 2 is in my list. So similar to what I used to take at the very start of Old World. So we're going to give 1.5 a go. And I've got lots of core infantry so I could capture objectives and stuff like that. The first game is against my old arch enemy Dylan and his dwarves, which you've seen many times on the channel. So we'll see how we go versus the dwarves, and the second game's versus vampires. So I will do an intro to the army here. I'm just experimenting with some AI removal of background noise. So you'll hear us talk about his army, and then we'll have a look at the orcs.
So this is the combat. Who's in there? Everybody, I guess.
No.
What's the
Actually,
static combat res?
at the moment, only they're just dwarf warriors.
Yeah.
They've got the master end of hesitation,
Right.
so
What's
no
that one
charge
doing?
bonuses.
No charge bonuses. Right. Yeah.
There's long beards,
The long beards are there.
loads
Yeah.
of gyrocopter.
Yeah.
Might put a greensmith in here.
Lone gyrocopter out there, and you've got the scouts to go after this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone on my channel be going, "Oh, those bloody dwarves did you?"
No. And deployed in a huge line as well.
Okay, so your typical dwarf army, and he's got a king on the shield bearers, and there's my army. So I've got the Night Goblins there with short bows. They've got 2 units of them. They both got short bows and 3 fanatics. So I do have a bit of punch there, and I've got 3 bolt throwers up the back. And there's Buttcracker on his Wyvern. He's just an ordinary war boss. Big unit of 18 Black Orcs with the red raggedy banner. And there's my 30 Araboys out on the right flank. I thought I might get them up on the hill and do some shooting. And the Great Keef on his Wyvern's just behind that tower. And then after I've deployed, he's got his scouts to come down. So they're going to deploy on the Orcs' left flank and just start annoying me there. So there's my lone bolt thrower on that flank. That's the extent of my left flank there. And then he's got, we should see him in a second here. Yeah, there's his scouts. See, but his scouts, they're in skirmish formation there. And so we're just pretending that they're arrayed out so they can all shoot. So I think there's 12, 15 or something scouts, maybe 12, I'm not sure. There's the scouts. I always have trouble getting rid of scouts. And at the start, I was considering I should just probably send both Wyverns straight left towards his scouts and try and get rid of them, because they're the bane of my existence, those scouts. And I think he put his king way out on his left flank in with the warriors. And so, I mean, the secret to defeating dwarves is to not go anywhere near the king. So there's the king just there. So I was also considering not going anywhere near the king. But I thought, no, let's go up the middle and run the gauntlet of the handgunners. So the dwarves won the roll-off. They chose to go first. I think that's a new thing in 1.5. You can choose to go first or second if you win the roll-off. So I think that's a good addition, just roll off. Choose which you want to go first, because there's always some scenarios, so you had to go first or whatever. Anyway, there's the Araboys about to take on the dwarf warriors. And we're just going to move up the front here. And my Wyverns are going to jump out in front of him and then jump over behind him and spin him around. And I'm taking some casualties from the shooting. And I've lost one of the Araboys. And he's trying to kill my bolt thrower there. I am going to get a shot with the bolt thrower at his gyrocopter. So I shoot down one of the gyrocopters. Let's have a look what happens in the next turn. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's Orc turn 1 still. All right. So I decided to just send the Wyverns over, and then I'm going to try and hop them over behind him and spin the dwarves around. I don't want to fight the king, and I've just sent the Black Orcs as far forward as possible. And the Araboys are a bit worried about fighting the king. and I don't think I got a single spell off. So this is my biggest complaint about version 1.5. They lowered all the bonuses to casting, and they changed a few spells, but not many. Like Itchy Nuisance, I still need a 9 to get it off. Bad Moon Rising, I need a 10 to get it off. Plus the dwarves have got magic resistance. Foot of Gork has always been an easy thing to cast, but you know, a level 2 or a level 1, you know, you got to roll above average to get it off usually, or on average, roll a 7, I suppose. The Foot of Gork, I'm not exaggerating here, but it's always done more damage to me than it has to the enemy, and it's easier to get rid of now as well because you don't have to be in range of the caster. So I think magic kind of sucks now because unless you've got bonuses to cast, and some armies have access to that, some don't. I mean, I could have had an Orc Shaman in the Black Orcs with a +1 to cast. Might have helped a little bit. So some armies can get bonuses to cast, some can't. If you have your little Goblin Shamans, there's not many ways without spending, you know, expensive items, I guess. You could get some bonuses to cast, but over in this game and my next game, I hardly got any spells off, and I had a level 3 and a level 2, I think, and I only got about, well, maybe 2 or 3 spells off over 2 games. So magic, if you can stock up on some magic resistance, I think you can pretty much ignore casting spells unless you've really got something you want to do, because I found a level 3 and a level 2, I hardly got any spells off. So that's my biggest complaint so far. 1.51 magic isn't what it used to be. Maybe that's good or bad, but I think magic's a fun part of the game. Sure, you could go over the top on it, but you know, just if you want to cast the odd spell, probably not worth it, I don't think. Anyway, let me know what you reckon. Right, so next turn, here you can see the king. He's outfoxed us here. The king has left the unit. He's carrying the D6 wounds rune on his great weapon or whatever it is. So I have killed a king once with a wyvern, the great keef on his wyvern, but I can't take on the king with his D6 wounds axe. I just he'll just kill me, I think. So I'm going to try and avoid the king. I should have just flown well away from the king and gone after the scouts or something. But I thought I'd try and go in here and clean up the handgunners and then get into the longbeards. But that's not going to happen if the king has come out of the unit with his D6 wounds axe. You don't want to fight that sort of king. So the great keef and buttcracker are just going to decline that charge there and get trapped by the king and the longbeards. So they're just going to jump over the top, which is... They're pretty smart orcs, these two. Great keef and buttcracker. They didn't get to be... this old from fighting dwarf kings with D6 wounds axes and stuff. So the king, luckily he's so slow, but he's still got 360-degree charge arc on that with his shield bearers. And then the Arrow boys, they got rid of a gyrocopter that was up on the hill, and they're just doing some volley fire into the warriors. They passed their impetuous test, and because the Black Orcs are well away from them now. So I'm just doing some volley fire into there, and hopefully I can do a couple of wounds, weaken them a little bit. And I did lose a bolt thrower here. The Rangers got rid of one of my bolt throwers, and he's still got one gyrocopter out on this flank. And so I reformed, and then that gyrocopter there, you can see, I'm just going to have to get rid of him with fanatics. Bit of a waste. And there's the Arrow boys, and we did some volley fire. Yeah, so I just it took 3 fanatics to kill that gyrocopter. Well worth it in my opinion, because that gyrocopter was going to cause me some trouble, so I had to get rid of it, and I got rid of the other one. Gyrocopters are pretty good. I would run a couple of units of 3, I reckon, just as a unit of like flying chariots. Anyway, the great keef and buttcracker have run over the top there, jumped over the top to get away from the king. And then the dwarves will have to make a decision whether they want to turn around or face the Black Orcs and so on. And then here, these night goblins, I've left them there trying to cast some spells. I didn't get any spells off again, so I've had my whinge about magic, so I'll have to suck it up and take some bonuses to cast, or maybe I'll just go for magic defense. Who knows? Anyway, that's my whinge about magic. And the boys are doing some volley fire in there, and the Dwarf King is ready to pounce on us if we go in. So I'm going to decline to go in with the Black Orcs. I'm going to wait for some Night Goblins to catch up. All right, well, let's see what happens next. This battle's going. The Dwarves charge down the hill into the Araboys, and they decide to use great weapons first, and they kill a fair few Araboys. And the King is ready to pounce. The boys are behind them. The Black Orcs are just waiting for some Night Goblins and Fanatics to come and help them out. And then he kills quite a few of the Araboys, maybe 4 or 5, and he wins the combat there. And then the King has jumped into the handgunners unit, and he's turned the Longbeards around to face Buttcracker. The Great Keith can't see anyone at the moment except maybe the back of the handgunners. But I don't want to fight the King. And this is good old-fashioned Warhammer here, some infantry fighting. And these guys are shooting at each other. And I did get a spell off, right? So I got Foot of Gork off. So my level 3 Night Goblin Shaman jumped out of the unit, and I sent the Night Goblins forward to try and release their Fanatics next turn. And I got the Hand of Gork off. Bit too close to my lines for my liking, but there's Hand of Gork, Foot of Gork. The Foot of Gork is being cast. And then, I did get another one. I got, I think it's Evil Sun Shining, the reroll ones to hit. I did cast that, so I got 2 spells off in this one turn. But then I forgot all about that spell, so I didn't reroll any ones to hit or +1 AP. So I cast a spell and forgot all about it. And this combat here goes on for a couple of turns. I think his mistake was that he switched to hand weapon shield to went defensive, because the boys have got the spider banner, so they've got poison. He was killing us pretty quickly, and then we're both fighting in 2 ranks here, but he went hand weapon shield, where he probably should have gone just kept with great weapon, because I was struggling to wound him anyway. And then the Foot of Gork went 7 inches that way, so that's a real victory for me, because it could have gone 7 inches back towards me. And so it went through the handgunners, and I think it did a couple of wounds, might have killed 3 of them. So the Foot of Gork didn't backfire for a change, which was good. Usually it comes back and goes through my own lines. I would have gone through everybody and did some wounds to the Great Keith or something. So, yeah, magic. It's over the top. It's done something. I killed 3 dwarves. Yeah, I think I killed about 3 of the handgunners. That was about it. And the King is in the unit, so it's going to be crunch time here soon. We're going to have to do something. And then I released the Fanatics. 1 fell short, 1 went through the handgunners, and 1 choked himself. So the Fanatics didn't do much. I was waiting for them to go and do something. And then the King he's going to jump out of the handgunners into the Longbeards in a minute, I think. The Fanatics are in the way there. And this combat, that was the fun bit. Yeah, so 1 Fanatic went through. He's turned the Longbeards around. And then I'm going to have to go in there, and I decide, I should have just flown over the top and avoided the King again. But I thought I'd make a game of it, and I had thought I would, this is clever, I'll charge the Black Orcs in with the Night Goblins into the handgunners. Even if I go through the Fanatic, I don't care. And then charge both Wyverns to challenge the King, and then maybe I overrun and swamp the Longbeards. So that sounds like a plan. We'll see what happens. These guys are just shooting at each other. And this combat goes backwards and forwards. I did roll a double 1 for my break test the first time. And eventually the Araboys are going to beat up the Dwarves. I think he should have just stayed with great weapons and killed more Araboys. He was doing pretty well until he went to hand weapon shield. And I wasn't doing any damage really. But with the ranks and the outnumber, I managed to make them fall back in good order. They go through the cart, and we pursue into the cart. So the Araboys didn't beat them up, but just pushed them back temporarily, and then the warriors will come back and beat up the Araboys. That's what I was expecting to happen, but the Araboys did okay. Yeah, so this was my there it is. They pushed the warriors back up onto the hill, and we got stuck into the cart. We couldn't kill the cart, because they just don't do much damage, the Arrow boys, even with poison. But poison's still okay, but I think they've nerfed poison because now it's things like steam tanks and iron demons, etc. seem to be able to do whatever they want. The only way you could get rid of them before was with some poison, or the ogre blade or something maybe. But now big things. I think the Age of Dragons is not over yet, so we'll see what happens in time. So we couldn't beat up the cart. And then Fanatics there. I'm losing that combat. Yeah, so here I decide, here it is. Here's the big crunch time. I send everybody in. The Night Goblins, the Black Orcs, both the Great Keith and Buttcracker are going to go into the Longbeards. And I'm thinking, aha, I have him here. I'm going to charge with the Black Orcs and the Night Goblins. I'm going to go through the Fanatics. Buttcracker goes through that Fanatic and takes a couple of wounds. And his stand and shoot with the handgunners does about 5 or 6 wounds to the Night Goblins. That was my mistake, sending the Night Goblins in as well versus the stand and shoot. So the stand and shoot gets him up to combat res of 5 already. And then I charge in and do a great whiff. And I forget that the Black Orcs are stubborn. So that's going to be a big mistake there, you can see. And the Arrow boys are struggling to kill the cart. The cart's going to fall back. Oh, he's going to actually break, I think, and he lives to fight another day. And then the boys are going to be fighting the Dwarf Warriors again. So there we go. So the Night Goblins, I've lost about 5 or 6 Night Goblins to the stand and shoot. The Black Orcs and the Night Goblins only kill a couple of the handgunners. And then the handgunners put their attacks into the Night Goblins. And so I lose more Night Goblins. So I think I lost about 9 Night Goblins. And then I've got like a close order, a couple of ranks, a banner. I think the handgunners have got a banner as well, maybe. Anyway, we lose that combat, and things don't go well from there. If you can imagine, the Black Orcs, they are stubborn, which I forgot about. I paid for veteran and stubborn. They were my killer 18 Black Orcs. So I have to do a break test for them, and they're not going to break through, so the Great Keith and Buttcracker are going to be fighting the Longbeards on their own with the D6 wound axe on the king. So I was in good control until I decided to go in here. So the Black Orcs do their break test. The Night Goblins, they caused all the trouble. I shouldn't have sent the Night Goblins in there as well. Never send a Night Goblin in to fight alongside Black Orcs. The Black Orcs could have done it on their own. They had a 3-up save versus the shooting and everything. They would have been okay. But it was a disaster. All right, so you're probably asking me, why don't you have a battle standard? Well, I just paid to make the Black Orcs stubborn, and I forgot about that. And then there's my new yellow dice that I was using. They were being reasonably lucky, but not very lucky with casting spells. But there we go. I rolled a double 6 for the Black Orcs break test, and they ran. Luckily, the Night Goblins didn't break. They just gave ground, I think, or fell back in good order. They caused all the trouble, but the Black Orcs actually broke and run. So now the Great Keith and Buttcracker are fighting the Longbeards with the king in there on their own. And you can imagine this doesn't go so well. Doesn't matter really what happens. We're going to either give ground or fall back in good order. And we take a couple of wounds from the king's axe and so on. I think the Great Keith fell back in good order and Buttcracker gave ground. But it's only going to be a couple of turns before they both get pushed off the table without the Black Orcs coming in from the rear or the flank, wherever they would have ended up, into the Longbeards unit. So there we are. There's the Black Orcs running away. The Night Goblins caused all the trouble. Now there we go. Buttcracker took a couple of wounds, and the Great Keith did... No, I don't think he did anything. I think that we did a challenge. The Great Keith was fighting the king. Probably did nothing to each other, maybe. But that's pretty much it. That's the end of the game here. The Black Orcs are running away. My 2 war bosses are going to get pushed off the table. And I think those warriors are eventually going to beat up the Araboys. The Araboys did pretty well. I think if I was going to run infantry, I probably didn't need the war boss on the Wyvern. Probably could have put him in a unit with the Black Orcs or something. Anyway, I do like having a Wyvern or a chariot or something with an extra guy flying around causing mayhem. But the Araboys did okay. They pushed them back. They just needed some help. And there we are. The king is now fighting Buttcracker on his Wyvern. So the Great Keith is about to run off the table there as well, I guess. So we pretty much call it at that point. His handgunners are beating up Night Goblins here. His warriors are beating up the Araboys. And we're getting outshot by the scouts. And there's the final shot of the Black Orcs running away from handgunners. I don't know how that happened. They should have just smashed them, but the extra combat res, like losing about 9 Night Goblins, didn't help the cause. The big red raggedy banner, they're running away with it, and that's pretty much it. The only other thing is the king was fighting Buttcracker, and he did like 11 wounds with his D6 wound axe. I did save, look, I saved quite a few of them. So out of the 11 I saved, 8? I saved 8. He took 3 wounds from the D6 wound axe, which did 11 wounds. But anyway, he's succumbed to his terror. And what I did was I just fled with both the Wyverns off the table. They will live to fight another day, but it's a solid victory to the Dwarves. But there's a lesson for you. Just my advice is never fight the king with the D6 wound axe. And that was my first game of version 1.5. So I like the changes, except I think magic's been nerfed, unless you've got access to bonuses to cast, etc. So, okay, well, let's go over my final thoughts on the changes and everything. I did buy the match play guide. I haven't really looked at all the scenarios and so on, but the main things are it's death of the big poison block, but I think they could have just fixed that by limiting the size of a unit to 30 or something like that. You know, no one wants to face big blocks of 80 skeleton archers and so on. I think that's over the top, but giving small units a way to do some damage to high toughness targets like steam tanks and dragons, etc. It sort of kept them in check, and also changing how the whole unit can't shoot at a large target. I mean, giants, it's good for giants, but it's also good for steam tanks and iron demons and dragons with multiple saves, because none of those things have gone away. They've actually got stronger, I think, in some cases. I mean, they buffed up infantry, but let's say it's the end of the big poison blocks, which were negative, but they could have fixed that by just reducing the size of the units, I reckon. Magic, they nerfed magic. It's okay, we'll see, but I think they probably just left the spell casting levels of some of the spells at the same, so that we didn't have to print new cards, I suppose, but they did, adjust a few spells. But it'll be that plays into the hand of Zeech, etc., who can get bonuses to cast. Same with Mortuary Cult. It's not as oppressive as it used to be, but your little shamans, etc., aren't going to cast many spells, I don't think. Anyway, they only had 1 game, well, 2 games. My second game was a disaster versus vampires, so we won't talk about that one either. So the magic has changed. Regen now works as I always thought it should have worked. It's just regenerating those wounds. There's no way that it works for crumbling rolls, but, we'll wait for them to fix that, hopefully. They nerfed Frenzy for some reason. So if you're standing still and get charged, you don't really get any bonus for Frenzy. I don't think it was needed. I don't think Frenzy was doing any serious damage. Impetuous, they sort of fixed that, so now it's a leadership test, so it's not as random as it was. So, not 50-50. I don't think that was really needed. It was sort of as it was okay. they improved infantry, which is good. Fighting in 2 ranks if they're standing still, and challenges and parry and things like that. These are all good changes, so I'm all for all those changes. What else? Challenges. The challenges thing is good, so you can't just guarantee that your dragon's going to do, the wounds +5, etc. So that stops at the initiative step. So that's probably good. So dragons have been toned down a little bit, but they toned down all the things that hunt dragons, so large poison blocks. But they could have just limited the poison blocks to a certain size. Anyway, we got to play with it as it is. The scenarios in the match play guide, I haven't looked at all of them. I played a couple of them. The second game I played it, you had cumulative scoring. I hate cumulative scoring in games where you've got to keep a track record of how many points you've scored for standing on a particular point on the battlefield. I hate that. It just breaks my immersion in the game. I'd rather just play the game, fight the battle, try and kill things, and then at the end of the game you add up to see who won or whatever. But I hate I hate cumulatively scoring, and it's in other games that I've played as well, and I just hate it. I don't know why, but I'd rather just set up the armies, play the game, and then maybe there's a hill, King of the Hill. I like that sort of thing, or table quarters and stuff. You could play for that, but I hate when you've got to go and stand on this point for no particular reason and score victory points. I just hate all that cumulatively scoring. And it allows someone maybe to race ahead, and people design their armies to race ahead and score on those points and stuff. I just hate that sort of thing. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the scenarios. And this business with the legacy armies like vampires and Skaven, etc., the renegade packs and so on, these house rules. The game doesn't travel with house rules, and nobody, you're not going to get 100% agreement. And anyway, I think someone on another podcast, I think Malign Musings, that guy Dan that sometimes does the stats and stuff. Sometimes he's in his pajamas and his shaving coat doing the stats and stuff. Anyway, if you ever seen that, he gave a good analogy of it. I just agree with what he said about the renegade lists. Hats off to people wanting to make their house rules. I think there's a couple of different podcasts doing house rules for the legacy factions. And I'm not keen on that. I'd rather Games Workshop, either they just abandon them and leave them as they are. You can still use those armies if you want to. But we've all got ideas about how we could improve them. And then the Games Workshop's not going to support them if they've lost control of the rules, etc. I think that's what Dan was saying. But anyway, I don't like the Renegade, faction stuff, just play with them as they are. I think some of them maybe need FAQs to fix a few things, maybe, but just leave them as they are, I reckon. Anyway, that's just some random thoughts. I'm not telling anybody what they should do or anything, but I like all the changes, maybe not all of them, but I think dragons will still be kings of the battlefield, as they should be. They've come down a couple of pegs, but their natural predators, like the poison blocks, etc., have been nerfed. So anyway, time will tell. I've only have a tiny sample of a couple of games, but I'm looking forward to a few more games and trying out a few more different things. And maybe I'll try some more dragons. If dragons are no good anymore, then that sounds good to me. I don't feel guilty bringing a dragon. Let's see what happens. All right, that's about it. I've waffled on enough. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Well, that was different. Yep, lousy, but different.